joining the show now. He covers the Cougs for KSLSports.com, and he joins us on Fridays. He's our buddy Mitch Harper. What's up, Mitch?
Yeah, guys, happy to be on here in St. George. Boys are getting ready for a basketball tournament, so happy to be on.
Mitch, speaking of basketball, what do you think the likelihood is? Because I don't know if Jaxson Robinson did enough at the Combine to guarantee himself getting drafted. If he does withdraw from the NBA draft, what are the odds he ends up back at BYU?
I'd say the odds wouldn't be in favor of BYU. He's got Kentucky and Kansas as options, and they're going to pay a lot of money potentially to get someone like Jaxson Robinson. And Jaxson Robinson said at the end of the season that he wouldn't be where he's at today without Mark Pope. He said that at the end of the NCAA tournament. So there's a strong relationship there with Mark Pope. But, Kevin Young's got the ability to sell BYU and, how he envisions Jaxson Robinson. And he's, made it clear that Kevin Young has that he wants BYU to be one of the best programs to prepare players for the NBA. And that's what Jaxson Robinson's going for. But I would say that BYU, is in the mix, and I wouldn't bet against, Kevin Young, but I would say that, Kentucky and Kansas would be the options that would probably be more the favorites in this right now.
Speaking of Kevin Young, even the great Adrian Wojnarowski is loving him up, huh?
He was, watching the Combine, and, just kind of gave him praise on that hire, and, that BYU got a, good coach, and it'll be interesting to see how, Kevin Young works out at BYU. All BYU basketball coaches, really, you look back over the last 70, 80 years, they've all been good. The only one that hasn't had at least 3 NCAA tournament appearances was Mark Pope, and he would have had 3 had, COVID not taken away his first year. So they've had the consistency of always getting good coaches at BYU despite their limited coaching pool. And Kevin Young's probably got one of the best resumes that BYU has ever, hired for a head coach as far as, praise and like his experience level. BYU typically gets up and comers in whatever sport they're hiring for their head coach. And, Kevin Young's got a lot of experience in professional basketball. We'll see how it translates to college basketball in the Big 12, but definitely a well-respected name, particularly in NBA circles.
I was surprised to see Noah Waterman throw his name to the transfer portal. He's pretty critical, and it seemed like Kevin Young was about keeping players in BYU, so I can't imagine he's getting run off. But am I wrong? Am I misreading that situation?
No, he's not getting ran off. And, the portal, BYU having their extension to May 12th, they had 11 extra days than the typical deadline because of Mark Pope's, coaching change. So, with no Waterman, when this era of, negotiations and maybe tampering, teams they need to fill out their rosters, and maybe there's a financial opportunity that's more lucrative than what he can currently have. Who knows? I mean, he hasn't publicly, he's kind of taken the Dallin Hall approach where I think he's keeping all of his options open as far as, not definitively saying goodbye to BYU, but Louisville's been a program that's been rumored to be in the mix for Noah Waterman, and BYU's got to get at least 2 or 3 guys to get a 10, 11 man rotation, and I think if they can do that, that'll be fine for BYU in year one with Kevin Young. So, but yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise because Waterman was someone that was seemed like he was in on BYU, and then things changed going into the final deadline of the transfer portal.
All right, Mitch, the list continues on. We've got 26 to 50 released this week, and we'll get the final is next week, right? 1 to 25. Awesome.
That's right.
I'm curious, in this particular batch, who was the hardest to place?
Probably Ziggy Ansah, and
I thought you'd say that. That's interesting. I thought you'd say that because I thought. Sorry, Mitch, to interrupt you, but I was like, "Ooh, I bet that was hard."
Yes, because as far as just an individual talent, there's very few, if any, that compare to his ability as as a defensive end. I mean, he is just kind of a one of one in BYU history, and he probably would not have played had Ethan Manumaleuna not got hurt. That's what's remarkable about his story, is that his talent and really kind of greatness for that one season would not have been realized had there not been an injury in front of him. But I just think that talent was just undeniable, and it's among the elites in BYU football history. And again, that's where this list, I felt, is different than your typical ranking of best players that lean solely on maybe stats or maybe just clocking in, clocking out every single day for 4 consecutive years. And like even if you only started 9 games, that talent was undeniable at BYU, and his impact. It was a reason why BYU had the 3rd best defense in college football that year, behind only Alabama and Notre Dame, and those 2 teams played in the national title. So, Ziggy was definitely tricky, and I placed him at 30, and I think a lot of people might think that could be too high, but I think it's a fair spot because it speaks to his level of talent.
Well, one of the interesting things on this list is, like, you have Fred Warner at 35. And Fred's turned into the best linebacker in the NFL, and so I think naturally people will assume, well, he should be a top 10 player because he might end up being a top 10 legacy player over at BYU as far as what he does at the next level. Who has a bigger name based on, I guess, reputation that's on this list versus what they actually produced while at BYU, now that you've kind of addressed the Ziggy Ansah situation?
Fred Warner could definitely be in that group. There's probably, I think that would be a good candidate because, Warner, he made an impact right away as a freshman, and he was dang good at BYU. I mean, he ended up his senior year playing like a little bit of safety, and it was kind of this hybrid role in that terrible 2017 season. But his best football has been by far and away in the NFL. I don't think anyone realized how much he had to offer at the pro level when he was leaving BYU. He was considering leaving after his junior year, and people thought that was crazy that he was considering it because no one looked at him after his junior year as an NFL prospect at that time. So, I think Fred Warner would be someone that could be kind of fit that billing a little bit. You go back and last week I had Eric Drage, was someone who was kind of synonymous with the glory years of BYU football and was left as the all-time leading receiver. And, I think people felt that was a little bit low because, again, he kind of embodied the golden era. But this is an overall makeup of, elite athletes, elite talents, and plus the production, plus the, everything that goes kind of into it. And, but no, it's been a fun list to put together, and BYU's had some really good players that make this debate really fun.
Man, I can't wait to find out if Ben Critta was top 10 or top 5. The mongoose.
He got left off the list. I can spoil that one for
also
you.
Receiving votes, the Criddler.
He was
Mitch.
in the others receiving votes category.
Mitch, we have to see him occasionally.
I know.
Oh,
I talked to Ben yesterday, in fact, and nope. I probably should let him know that he's not going to be on the list.
I love the Criddler. Mitch, thank you. As always, we appreciate you, and enjoy St. George.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Good luck
See
to
you,
your
buddy.
boys.